I want to, there's always like stuff out there. People complain about broadcasting, and I get it. We watch it, sports, it's fun. You complain about broadcasters. Sometimes you even complain about me. That's fine. But when you're watching a game on ESPN and you have John Shambi, you have Fran Fraschilla, and you have Chris Budden calling this game, talking about Baylor Houston, it was entertaining. It was informative. Off the top, Shambi and Fran really set the stage for it's going to be an intense game, 7,000 people strong at the Fertitta Center. And early in the game, as play starts to pick up, right, and intensify a little bit, Fran Fraschilla notes that Baylor's having trouble switching, right? They've been switching all year long, but now Roach and Love, they're back on the floor together. Love hasn't played a ton this season or in seasons past. So there's some stuff that Baylor's finding their way with. He mentions they're having trouble switching. He noticed that. So the broadcast comes back from a timeout, and Chris Budden gives this update. Scotty's going to play it, and then we're going to comment on it real quick. But check this out.
Let's go over to Chris Budden.
And Scott Drew, during that last timeout, spent a lot of time talking about the defensive switches. Langston Love, everyone was very frustrated that it wasn't working, and they were getting lost on a man. And so Scott Drew said, fine, we're not going to do that anymore. Blame that on us and the staff. You guys just stay with your man.
That's good stuff, Chris. Yeah, really good. Because you could tell they were confused. They've done it both ways this year. But with all the injuries, there's no...
That is as good as it gets, sideline reporting-wise. In today's, I don't care if you're watching the NFL on Fox. I don't care if you're watching, NBA on ESPN or NBC now or Turner. That's as good a report as you'll get. And I think I can give like an anatomy to why such a good report like that takes place. First of all, these three get an opportunity to work together every so often. And it's tough now with college basketball schedules. And, as you get down the stretch, you seem to get more of the same broadcasters. But there's so much inventory, so many games. But these three know each other really well. And it's very clear that they've worked together a lot before. So you got great chemistry between the three of them, not just the two, the three. And earlier in the game, Fran Fraschilla had noted that. He said they're having trouble switching. So right away, you've got like Chris Budden is clearly paying strict attention to what the broadcasters are saying. Now, you could say, oh, that's her job. But you got to realize when you're moving and grooving and running around and doing sideline hits from the baseline and then getting back to your seat and then trying to tee up other stories, if you're Chris Budden, you could miss something like that, a piece of information, because you do have the broadcast in your ear. So she picks up on that. And then her relationship with Scott Drew, and this is why it's so important, that there's some continuity. I've called the Big 12 for I'm in the middle of my third year now. So I am luckily starting to familiarize myself, and I have over the past handful of years. Like, really, you get to know the SIDs, you get to know the coaches, right? You get to know some of the support staff, some of the players even who have stuck around. And you sort of have a little more access, or they're a little more comfortable with you being around the program. And, Chris Budden, I'm sure, has been working with Baylor for, I don't know, close to a decade now, probably. I remember, at least it's 5-6 years, doing the Big 12, doing a lot of it. That's my ballpark guess, just on this off the top of my head. But like, she gets close enough to the huddle where she's able to get that information. She also gets the honesty from the coach. Like, you just don't get that anymore. And it's not like it was some crazy revealing report that made Baylor look bad. It was a real honest assessment and a look into what's happening right now. So people so often talk about, why do we have sideline reporters? Blah, 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 blah. That's why we have sideline reporters. Like, to be able to, that's something that Fran can't get from where he's sitting. That's something that John Shambi can't get from where he's sitting. The producer can't get. Only the sideline reporter can like nestle up to a huddle and hear what's going on and convey it to us. And it takes talent, right, to convey it in that manner. So a great job by Chris Budden. And I was like, damn, that was like really cool. And it goes back to more basketball now. Baylor has had so many different players coming and going this year that there has been, you talk about chemistry and continuity, not a whole lot on a team that prides itself on that type of chemistry and continuity, especially when they're playing man-to-man defense, right? Scott Drew made his bones for long stretches at Baylor playing zone. And they try to play man-to-man more often, but unfortunately you got a 5-guard lineup sometimes because of the injuries your team has been decimated by, and you find yourself disconnected defensively. And you cannot be disconnected against Kelvin Sampson's Houston team.